All right, let's talk about something that's always in the news, something that can be incredibly divisive: free trade. It's a real economic puzzle, and today we're going to try and solve it. So, let's get right into this paradox. I mean, you open up any economics textbook, and it's all praise for free trade. Everyone wins. But then you turn on the news, and it's one of the most heated political issues out there, with fierce debates over tariffs, trade deals, and jobs. So, what gives? What's the real story here? Part of the problem is that some of the classic economic models, well, they were a little too simple. Theories like the Ricardian model basically just looked at labor. And when you do that, you get this really neat, optimistic picture where free trade makes everybody better off. But the real world, as we know, is a lot more complicated. So to get closer to the truth, we're going to need a better tool. And that is where the specific factors model comes in. This is what's going to help us really understand what's going on. It gives us a much more realistic picture because it doesn't just look at one factor of production. It introduces three. Okay, so this is the absolute core idea, the thing that changes everything. A specific factor is exactly what it sounds like. It's something that is, for all practical purposes, stuck in one particular industry. Think about a huge, specialized car manufacturing plant. You can't just flip a switch and start growing wheat inside it tomorrow. It's specific to making cars. The same thing goes for a plot of farmland. It's for farming, period. So in our model, we've got one mobile factor: labor. People. Workers can, at least in theory, move between jobs, from a factory to a farm, for example. But then we have our two specific factors: capital, which is the machinery stuck making one good, and land, which is stuck producing another. And right there, that's where all the conflict, all the political tension really begins. Let's build a little toy economy just to see this in action. It's super simple. We're going to produce just two things: cloth and food. To make cloth, you need capital and labor. To make food, you need land and labor. And remember the most important rule: only the workers, the labor, can move between these two industries. Now, there's one more crucial rule for our little economy. It's the law of diminishing returns. And really, it's just common sense. If you keep cramming more and more workers into a single factory, but you don't add any new machines, well, eventually they're just going to start bumping into each other. Each new person you add contributes a little bit less than the person before them. This idea is absolutely essential for what's about to happen. All right, our toy economy is all set up. Now for the fun part. Let's throw open the doors to international trade and just watch what happens when prices start to shift. This is where we're finally going to see the winners and the losers emerge. So let's imagine our country starts trading and boom, it finds out it can sell cloth for 10% more on the world market. That price hike kicks off a chain reaction. First, the cloth factories see a chance to make more money, so they try to hire more people. Where do they get them? They have to pull them away from the farms. Now, to do that, they have to offer higher wages, so wages go up for everybody. But, and here's the catch, remember diminishing returns? Wages don't go up by the full 10%. And just like that, the entire economy pivots, shifting to produce more cloth. And this right here is the big reveal. This is the whole point of the model. The owners of capital, the folks who own the cloth factories, are the clear, unambiguous winners. The price of their products shot up 10%, but their labor costs went up by less than that. They are making a killing. Now look at the landowners. They're the clear losers. They're getting squeezed. They have to pay their workers higher wages, but the price of their product, food, hasn't changed at all. And what about the workers, the mobile group? Well, for them, it's ambiguous. Sure, their wage is higher, but the price of cloth is also higher. So whether they're actually better off really depends on how much cloth versus food they like to buy. And that's the crucial takeaway. Your view on free trade might depend entirely on what you own. If you own the factor that's specific to the export industry, you're going to love free trade. But if you own the factor that's stuck competing with cheaper imports, you are going to fight it tooth and nail. And suddenly, all that political conflict, it makes perfect sense. So let's take this model out of the textbook and see how this all plays out in the real world, in the policy debates and the headlines we see every single day. Here's a fascinating thing about the politics of all this. The groups that lose out from trade are often really concentrated. Think of a factory town where pretty much everyone works in one industry that's now facing foreign competition. They have everything to lose, so they are highly motivated to organize and lobby for protection. But who are the winners? Well, that's all of us, saving a few bucks here and there on cheaper goods. We're spread out all over the country, and for any one person, the benefit is pretty small. So who do you think is going to shout louder? Okay, let's tackle the biggest fear, the one that causes the most anxiety. This idea that trade steals jobs. The model we just looked at shows that jobs shift between sectors. But what about the overall number of jobs in the country? Does it actually go down? The number might actually surprise you. 2%. According to a major study that looked at the years between 2001 and 2010, only about 2% of involuntary job displacements in the U.S. were a direct result of either import competition or plants moving overseas. It turns out the vast majority of job churn, the other 98%, comes from all sorts of other domestic factors. And in fact, if you just zoom out and look at the big picture, the share of jobs in manufacturing has been steadily declining for over half a century. The main driver here isn't actually trade, it's massive, massive gains in productivity. We're simply making far more stuff with far fewer people, thanks to technology and automation. That long-term trend was in place well before the trade debates that dominate today's headlines. So where does all this leave us when it comes to policy? Well, the model confirms that trade does create overall gains. The country's economic pie gets bigger. So in theory, the winners could give a slice of their new earnings to the losers, and everyone would still end up better off. The problem is, in practice, that kind of redistribution is politically messy and almost never happens perfectly. And that's exactly why governments create safety net programs, like trade adjustment assistance, to try and help the workers who are most negatively affected. And that is the fundamental question the specific factors model leaves us with. It shows us that trade does grow the whole pie. But is that enough? Is a bigger pie enough if the slices are divided in a way that feels deeply unfair? It shows us that this isn't just a simple economic debate about efficiency. It's a complex, challenging conversation about society, about politics, and about who gets to share in the gains.